Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. I am JT.
Hello guys, I'm Joey.
And today, guys, we're discussing too much jiu-jitsu. Is it possible? Can you do too much jiu-jitsu? Because that's the thing. We find jiu-jitsu and we enjoy it, we embrace it, and then before we know it, it's like you're starting to shape your life around it because it's so enjoyable. There's so many benefits. Then all our friends are there. And then all our social activities revolve around jiu-jitsu, tournaments, everything. And then you start to get injured, the body starts to get sore, and really you are finding that jiu-jitsu is actually taking over your life to the point that you can't live your life normally, but then you also can't keep doing jiu-jitsu the way you want to. And this is what we're talking about, guys. It's like...
But you keep doing it.
Yeah, you just keep going because it's the addiction, it's the love, because it is such a great thing.
Yeah, it's also the culture of jiu-jitsu. It encourages volume.
Yep.
It encourages constant attendance, frequency. It rewards that inadvertently.
Yes.
Doesn't it? It's like, the people that show up, so-and-so's here every day grinding kind of thing.
Yep.
There's a lot of respect around that. And there is obviously that shows a level of dedication that is admirable in many ways.
Yeah.
We've done it for periods, haven't we?
Of course. And I think also because jiu-jitsu is so big, there's so much to learn. When you realize, my God, I've got all this knowledge I need to get my head around, I better be at training all of the time. But this is what I wanted to say, relevant to there being too much training of jiu-jitsu, is your body cannot necessarily take what your mind is willing to take on. Like there can be a distinct difference between what your body can tolerate and what you're prepared to do. And depending on at what age you come to start jiu-jitsu, whether you're starting later or earlier, if you are younger, you can tolerate more physical stress if you're in good nick. But if you're, regardless of age, if you're out of shape, you've already got pre-existing injuries, you've got fused, discs, like you've got various problems, you will have less tolerance. So how do we approach this? So what I thought is we would start at the start. How does it start? How does it start that we're doing jiu-jitsu and then we take it too far? For some of my friends, it's been competition. Their coach has said, hey, you haven't done a competition yet. You've trained jiu-jitsu for, a year, 18 months. You should do a comp. Yeah, everyone's doing it. Hey, we've got 20 guys going. It's going to be fun. Yeah, your mate's doing it. We'll all go to comp. All right, comp training. Extra rounds. Expectation. You tell your friends to be there. Performance anxiety.
More intensity.
Oh, yeah. It ramps up. And this is where I've seen people tend to really pick up their intensity and start to do too much.
Yeah, there's a reward system that occurs when you train more. And I think it largely comes, I wouldn't hold the leaders of jiu-jitsu gyms accountable to this necessarily, but I think that they are the reason it happens.
Yeah.
Because your coach is like, hey man, like you say to them, you sign up, you start training jiu-jitsu, it's great. How often do you think I should do it? I mean, show up every day. Like the more you train, the better you get, Okay, cool. And obviously the coach wants you to get better as fast as possible. They want the best for you, but they also want the gym to be busy. They want the members to be engaged. This is what it is. It's this is how you keep the dream alive.
More bodies on the mat is good for the gym.
Yeah. And so naturally, coaches like, get here every day. And you're like, okay, cool. And you start going every day. And, for a period, it's really fun and rewarding and great. The problem is that there's no discussion around, man, what other factors have you got going on in your life? Are you getting enough sleep?
Yeah.
Do you working out? Do you have kids? Man, do you eat well? Like, are you making the time to recover and shit? These are really basic things that are discussed in the gym realm, like in the physical training realm, aren't they? Like, you go and lift weights with a personal trainer or something, that's all discussed.
Yes.
Yeah, with a good one. But in jiu-jitsu, it's just disregarded because it's not about, we don't look at it from that mechanical perspective, do we? It's just like train harder, more pull harder, you'll get better.
Yeah, and it's I guess much more kind of philosophical, like, do you have that kind of warrior spirit? Are you going to show up even when you're sore, even when you're tired, and just give it your all?
That's right.
And it's great because there's not many things in our life that test us in that way to push us to confront our insufficiencies and all of that. But that said, that's also really negligent because that kind of doesn't treat you as an individual, because as an individual, you might have a bunch of problems. Yeah, you might have broke your ankle when you're a teenager, or you might have scoliosis, or you might have a bunch of problems that putting yourself under pressure, under stack pass, under Big Steve, who's 120 kilos, is going to potentially herniate the discs in your neck and mean that you have pain for a long time thereafter. So that's when it starts to get too much, because I think the thing that we're trying to get to or drill down into to get clear on is you might be training twice a week or 3 times a week. That feels good. You want to get better. It just seems like more is better.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna phrase it this way and say I don't think more is better. I think quality wins. So there are ways to make your 3 sessions better. If you want to do 4, that's cool. Some people will stretch to 5. But if you're training jiu-jitsu 5 times a week, I honestly think you're probably missing a few other things you need, which might just be doing some stretching. It might just be doing some walking, just doing things which are healthy but not performance-based. Because jiu-jitsu is such an intensive thing in terms of performance.
Yeah.
It's strength, it's flexibility, it's fitness, it's your ability to get squashed. There's like so many things in there which make it athletically demanding, even though you could look at your common jiu-jitsu person and they don't necessarily look that athletic.
That's right.
There's we even at Alliance at our gym, there's some guys in there. Who's our pommy friend? Who's
Ollie.
I shouldn't have called him out, but like
he's an animal.
He trains hard.
Yeah, he'll fuck you up, purple belt, but he doesn't necessarily look like an animal.
No.
Yeah, it just looks like a bloke.
But he's taped up. He's always like his wrist.
Yeah.
His ankle.
And he's ready for war.
Oh, yeah. Always. But he's always banged up. And you wouldn't look at him and say, that guy's athletic. That guy could jump me. If you're walking down the street, you wouldn't be scared of Ollie per se. If you roll with him, it's a bit of a nightmare.
If you're in your early 20s and you're listening to this, then no doubt you'd be like, this is some bullshit. I don't need to hear this shit.
Forget these guys.
Yeah, and we can't blame you, young person, for thinking that way. If you're in your late 30s, your early 40s, then you're like, tell me, guys, what do I need to do?
Tell me more.
Yeah, please. And here, there's we got to acknowledge, like JT said, you get away with this shit when you're younger, and you can burn the candle at both ends and keep coming in and not get punished for it. But the problem is, and this is, I think, so even if you're hearing this and you're like, it's fucking not relevant, it's old man shit. Something to keep in your mind is that JT and I both went through this fire of being young and just training like motherfuckers, right?
Sure.
And a part of me thinks that that's an important kind of rite of passage within the art.
To learn.
Yeah. And it's like, and if you can burn the candle at both ends and make it out to the other side, and that's a great experience. Definitely. Even though it's like, maybe I could have done that a little bit more intelligently, there's something to be gained from it. However, a point in your life definitely comes where you realize, I can't keep doing this.
Yep.
I see, and I'm sure you would agree with this, in jiu-jitsu, that a lot of people get to that point where they're forced to recognize that, but they refuse to recognize it and continue to train in the same way, and they ultimately burn out.
Cognitive dissonance, yes.
They either quit the sport or they get hurt so bad that's never really, jiu-jitsu is not what it once was to them.
Body breakdown.
Yeah.
I think this is where it leads. So there's warning signs, how much is too much? A lot of people say this to us, like whether it's how much is too much BJJ, and then how much is too much gym. And it is different, relevant to an individual. Because some people have better tolerance for doing weightlifting. Some people have better tolerance for doing mobility, flexibility training. Some people have better tolerance for just getting minced on the mats. You see people who are quite resilient in that way. The thing we don't see is people's quiet moments. And I've had some of those quiet moments of crippling pain and really questioning, like, I'm meant to be a personal trainer. I'm also meant to be a strength coach. I can't stand on my 2 feet. Like, I can't stand up straight. I'm literally using a broomstick to hobble to the bathroom while I will eat, 100 milligrams of whatever painkiller, 500 milligrams of what other anti-inflammatory, like destroying potentially my gut health just in the name of having a normal function. And this is not an old person. This is why I'm 28 years old. I'm 29 years old. and feeling strong and fit as possible, but can't stand up straight. And still in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm fit. No, I'm strong.
Savage.
I can do this, you know?
Just don't challenge me right now.
Yeah, just
Give me a couple hours, let me get a meal in me.
I'll be good after. And that's the thing, guys. We all do this because we don't want to think of ourselves as vulnerable. We don't want to think of ourselves as weak because, you know, we get enough of that in life. And then to have the thing we love, jiu-jitsu, just bring that home so hard is very confronting. And we just try and keep going, you know? Just whatever, tape it. Take the drugs. Whatever it takes, you know?
The other side of that is I liken it to when you're trying to avoid junk food.
Yeah.
And you get up in the morning and you're like, I'm going to fucking nail it today, man. I'm going to have clean breakfast. I'm going to, you know, I'll often do this. Like I'll feel this thing in my head. I'm going to fucking eat real good.
Eggs, avocado.
Make sure I take my banana and protein shake and, you know, do the whole thing. And then like, it's like 12 hours later and it's after dinner and you're like, where's that fucking chocolate at? I want some chocolate. You know, and all that shit you said in the morning is just
it's gone.
It's gone. Or I'll do it with sleep, where it's like, man, I'm so tired. I'm going to bed really early tonight. Yeah. And then it's like 9:30, and Miss like, you want to put on Netflix? I'm like, yeah, put it on. Girl. Yeah. But you're like, I shouldn't be doing this.
You know, in your head, like.
And jiu-jitsu is the same because you'll wake up and you'll experience that pain and the tired, and you'll be like, man, I'm so foggy. I didn't sleep enough. Like training last night or yesterday was really fucking hard. I need to catch up on rest. But then it rolls around to the evening and you drag yourself to the gym and you scrape through the warm up and you do some drill and fucking around talking to your mate and then start rolling and get that first round in. You feel good.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm fucking back. I'm good. Let's go. And you have another mad session.
Yes.
And then the next morning you're like, oh man, I dug the hole again. That's this. Only jiu-jitsu does that.
Chasing the dragon.
Yeah, where you're like, because of all the stress hormones, like all the adrenaline and shit, when you start rolling, you don't feel all the pain and all the tiredness.
No.
You're forced into action and it's a wonderful thing, but it's masking how fucking broken you really are.
That's true.
And you know, this culture of like, just show up no matter what. Yes, it's a good thing. People need more discipline. It's healthy. But if you're applying it repeatedly, and you're fucking waking up and you're feeling like shit, man, it's telling you like, dude, stop applying that discipline.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to give an example of our mate Keller, who is a savage, who is a judo black belt, jiu-jitsu black belt, ADCC rep, tough guy, monster to roll, always down for a war. Anyone, he'll roll you. He doesn't care. He's tough as. But he has also accrued a lot of injuries over his career. And has recently, you know, he's a mate of mine, said to me, man, my body's wrecked. Because he likes to do stuff on the weekend. The guy will go bloody downhill bike riding. He'll go bloody kite surfing. Like, he's not a guy who just does jiu-jitsu. He does many things. But he's like, man, I'm always in pain. Always. He won't shy away from it. Like, he's going to not train. But he's definitely recognized this point of being like, man, my body. And that's why he came in today. He was doing some Bulletproof. And he's going to be doing Bulletproof in his lead up to the next ADCC. But he has recognized. Now, he's not an old guy.
You were in his corner for last ADCC,
I
was.
I did corner him.
When he fought Murillo?
Murillo. And that was like a last minute thing. George bailed on him. So George Hanlon, who is co-owner of Grappling Education, was meant to be coaching Keller. And it was the night before, and we were at dinner. And George said, oh, hey, Keller, you know what I mean? I'm a geezer and I'm not going to coach you. No, sorry, George, respect. But George said, oh, the ADCC has offered me to be an official and he wanted to get like pally with the guys. So I said, oh, I can't coach you. And Keller just turned to me and said, hey, man, could you coach me tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, of course. I already had a coach's pass for kind of the absolute guys, but I was like, sure thing. He did great. He did a bloody flying Kezagatami.
Didn't he take Murillo down?
He took Murillo down hard, but it was in no points.
Yeah.
Like he just went, because he was getting stalled. And Kel's like, fuck this. And just bloody full like Koshiguruma, like headlocks, bro.
Yep.
Boom. And just like threw it hard and smashed him on the ground so hard. And then Murillo like pulled guard and stalled the whole fight.
Did nothing.
And Keller stood up into a full squat, sat back, and is trying to bench Murillo's hips off him, like could not get him out of close guard. Murillo did nothing, They gave the win to Murillo.
Of course.
No, it's natural. He's better at jiu-jitsu. He's Brazilian, right? But no, it was a bit of an atrocity because Keller actually had a really good run in his category, like styles-wise. It would have been nice to see him go further. But definitely, this guy trains as hard as anyone as I have seen, and I believe he's one of the best competitors we have in Australia. And he has said to me, I need to fix what's going on with my body. And so this body breakdown, where you can't have your normal life function, you can't chase after your kid, try and put your shoes on. This is the test for me. I know if my hip flexors or my back's too jacked up, just standing in the morning, I always try and put my shoes on standing up. I don't sit on the ground. I stand there. It's a Bruce Lee thing. Bruce Lee used to do it. He's like, use it as a balance exercise.
Yeah.
You stand to put your socks on, and you don't put your other foot down, and then you stand to put your shoes on. You don't have your shoes laced. You have to stand there, put your shoe on, and lace them, holding your leg up and balance, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of use this as a bit of a test. There are mornings where I'm like, I don't think I can do this.
Ollie, get me a chair.
No, she's still in bed. It's 5 a.m. But you know what I mean? Like it's one of these things that I do have these check-ins with myself, and there's a subconscious voice that goes, what the fuck are you doing? You can't put your fucking shoes on? Are you a child? Be reasonable. I do have that. I know Joe's looking at me like, you don't have that voice. These thoughts don't cross your mind, but they do. I have two very strong voices in my mind. One is like, just strap it. Who cares? As long as you can roll, you're good. And then I have the other voice, which is the voice of reason. And then there's, and you probably experienced this, guys, where you're actually questioning, what do I do now? Like I'm at this point, body feels broken. I don't know how to come back. So that's what I want to talk about. I think this is an important point, and this is relevant to Keller too. I just said, mate, 2 days a week, we have to do things that are going to unfuck your body. We have to, because you're going to go out there on that mat and go to war like 2-3 times a day. We have to put time into restoring. So for many of you out there, you may have been to see the physio. Some of you may be scared. You don't want to know. You maybe haven't had an MRI, or you haven't had a scan to check exactly what's wrong because maybe you're afraid of surgery or whatever it might be. The thing that we need to do here is we need to acknowledge it's time to make a change. What do we need to do? So for me, the thing that I've done more recently is I have reduced my heavy lifting a bit. I'm still doing resistance work, but I'm definitely putting more time into my mobility and stretching.
You've turned into a pussy, bro.
That's basically what I'm saying. No. Well, no, I think it's one of those things. It's like
you don't look at me.
Oh, what? Excuse me. But I definitely feel like the harder thing for me to do is the stretching.
Of course,
like the lifting is the fun.
Yeah,
thing.
that's your jam.
I love it. So it's actually mentally much harder for me to go to a place of, I guess, weakness or limitation and hang out there and be like, God, I suck at this, and still do it. How about yourself, Joe?
Look, in my training, I've been pretty moderate with jiu-jitsu for a long time, and I've also been pretty moderate with my strength and mobility for the last, since having a child, because got a child, like it's just hard to get the time over the last year.
Definitely.
So that's actually been really healthy for me because I do 2 days of strength work.
Yeah.
Strength and mobility together. I've been following the Bulletproof standards.
Yep.
Yeah, which drops soon. It's great. It's mobility and strength together in the one workout. It's like 60 to 90 minutes. I do it twice a week and I'm done.
It's good.
Obviously, I do some stuff on the mats before and after class. And then I'm at